And tonight, our first two guests, and give them a big applause, are Heiko Barnerßoi of CiteeCar and Jay Cousins, founder of Open Design City. And we're going to talk about the sharing economy. Nowadays, you see a lot of cars over the streets that are actually shared. We don't own them, we order them through our mobile phones. But what's the tech behind it, and are they truly contributing to a better world? And this is, of course, the first question for my guest of tonight. Heiko, is collaborative consumption, sharing your car in your model, truly contributing to a better world?
Yes.
Why?
Just think about the space cars take up nowadays in cities. Think about how congested cities are by the high density of people living there and bringing their cars into a city. So a car sharing service as we do it, the traditional car sharing, where the car returns to the spot where you rented it and picked it up, is set to replace 15 privately owned cars. So basically every car that we bring into a city takes out 15 other cars. That will help get free space in cities. That's how we contribute to it.
Yeah. Jay, is this something that you would say is true? Is this model contributing to a better world?
Well, I think we need to, it makes sense first I'd like to see the data. I'm always a very cynical individual with respect to most things, but I think also there's an opportunity, if you're looking at genuine collaborative consumption, if you're going to use those terms, this is actually more a renting model rather than a collaborative consumption model. So there are closer things which can actually have a further benefit for the environment. So if you take cars that are already produced and then you share the car that you own, so CiteeCar, for example, which is part of EasyJet group, which I was quite surprised to find out about today, is doing a neighborhood car sharing system. So you can share your car with your neighbors. That way you don't have to produce a new car. And producing new cars damages the environment also. So I think if that's going to be the line of argument, then I think we really need to approach it from an educated standpoint and look at how really to maximize the benefit. Otherwise, it's just half-assed and a bit greenwashing, no offense. But I think you need to really, if you're going to do it properly.
Well, Heiko, you're not doing it properly.
I wouldn't go that far. No, I think that there's a good point in how do we use resources that we have today. But think about the cars, the peer-to-peer, the private car sharing models. They're mainly old cars. They're cars 10, 15 years old, people trying to quench out the last little coin that comes out of it. And they're basically environmentally unfriendly. So, of course, producing a new car takes up a lot of resources, but driving a new car, or not an old car, pollutes less. Yeah. So I think there's angles.
Why didn't you choose then, for example, for electricity cars? Because that would then be like more a modern car that's really fitted for the future.
You're definitely right. What we're trying to do, because when we analyzed the market of car sharing, we found out that the existing models are really complicated and really expensive. So what we're trying to do is to be as easy and be as cheap and affordable as possible to drag as much people as possible into the car sharing model, and to plant that thought of why should I own a car into their heads so deeply that the entire car sharing actually speeds up, and then all the other models will profit, we will profit, we will own less cars, there will be less cars produced.
But could you then give a definition of what you think is cheap?
We know what we think is affordable. So our model is based on €1 per hour and 20 cents per kilometer. I think that's a fair assumption. There are so many stats and figures out there what a car will cost. A private car is will only benefit you if you drive more than 15,000 kilometers a year. If you're below that, use a car sharing car, whether it's us or anyone else, but don't own a car.
Jay, what do you think about being cheap? Do you think that driving a car, or the model as how they are presenting, is that cheap, or is it expensive? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think we're looking at arbitrary values. It depends whether you're looking at cost or benefit to the environment or what you're really trying to do. I think you always have to make a personal analysis and also a personal judgment in what you're doing and what you're behaving. And I was having a conversation with a couple of friends about this today, like, does it make a difference? And one group was formerly car owners, and they were saying, well, it's good for me because I can access a car, and I made a decision not to get another car as a result. So I'm going to acknowledge that. But on the flip side, the other guy said, well, for me, I don't own a car, I wouldn't consider one, but now I'd consider taking a car as an alternative to a bike on occasion, or what have you, if I'm feeling particularly lazy. So one group is driving less, and the other group is driving more. And also the cheapness factors into that. So the amount you actually drive, and when you make these economic decisions about the amount you would like to drive, this is also an aspect. And I think if you're going to make it linked to the environment, then really link it directly to carbon and not price and value, and then work backwards on the economic incentives.
Yeah. Can I make it a little bit personal? Because you founded Open Design Cities, also closely involved in Makers Lab. What influence does like the sharing economy, collaborative thinking, what part does it take in your life? How important is it for you?
It's critical. I mean, it got me to where I am at the moment, what I'm doing, and every aspect of my life. My house is built from tools which were shared with friends through Open Design City, and also through skills that I learned along the way, both on one hand learning and sharing myself, and on the other hand from them teaching for me. And before I started working in Cairo, I was also working as a part of a network, collaborating, bringing one another work, so sharing opportunities as well as everything else. So it's really very much at the core of my being, and it allows me to enjoy a better quality of life.
And how do you see it interact with the Berlin tech scene? Because this is a program about tech. Of course, being in the beta house, you come across a lot of tech startups. Do you see that more and more startups are really also influenced by this idea of sharing something, and also seeing tech as something that can enable a sharing economy?
Yeah, I think you're already seeing a number of tech startups. I mean, most notably Gidzy in terms of looking at sharing of knowledge, for example. But also, I can't remember the exact name of it, but there is a startup already also looking at sharing directly, like your resources and your belongings. Actually, there's a couple. So there was Friends, and then I know of at least 2 different startups in Berlin that are looking at this. I think the ideology that's coming through Berlin is informing the ideas that people are having and what they're creating more often than not. But also it gives them access, like Beta House is a co-working space. This is a shared space. Right. So this is also shared space, shared resource, and shared opportunities. So that's already affecting the tech culture at the foundation.
Yeah. So Heiko, maybe a difficult question to answer, but if you had to make a decision about, okay, being profitable or stopping if it would hurt the environment, what would you do?
Find a way to solve the problem. There's always more than either or, so we would try to work around that. I think Beta House is a great example because I was fascinated by you saying you built a house, not knowing how to do it, not having the tools, and you managed to do so. Beta House is basically an agglomeration of people trying to help each other, to support each other. We're supporting people at Beta House. We have 2 cars at Beta House in our B2B program. People at Beta House can use them for free if they need them during business hours. And at night, when they no longer need it, they go back into our fleet for all the people to share. So I think there's always 2 sides to the medal. And if it really came to the point, we would try to find a solution.
Yeah, that's what you said at the beginning. But the reason I was asking is because you're VC backed, and we all know that VCs, also in this case, Mangrove Partners from Luxembourg, they want to see revenue after 6 or 7 years. So, I mean, if it was crowdsourced or, it was a bottom-up movement, you could say, okay, we can make our own decisions. But actually now, these are tech VCs who want to see their money. So this must be difficult for you.
I just answered the question before, how do we make our money? So the interesting thing is we do it that low budget and we still can manage to break even just on the rental. So I think it's not about the big margin, it's about the movement, it's about the educating the people, what I said in the beginning. It's about making car sharing a big societal need, actually. That's what it is about. Of course, they will try to get out their money, but by doing something good, by collaborating towards this movement, by trying to get rid of car ownership, I think we can do that.
Yeah, so you're trying to get the Germans out of their own car and getting into a shared car. That must be, because we're of course in Berlin, we're here in Germany, that must play like an important factor because, I mean, as I know the Germans, they love their cars.
Which is great, because part of our model is to actually find private individuals to host our cars and to give them their own car. They can look after it. It will still be their car. So we still do have people who want to have a car, and they basically can get that through our host system. And for all the others who just need the car on the rare occasion, whether it comes up because they have access or whether they replace their own car, that's what we do.
Yeah. Jay, I mean, yeah, you're obviously not from Germany, right? Do you think that that Germans ultimately will all get into these shared cars?
I can't really pretend to know Germans that well after 4 years to be able to make these kind of predictions. And I think if I was to make such broad sweeping statements, it would bite me on the arse at some point in the future.
But it is still very small. Not only the sharing economy when it comes to the cars, but in general in Germany. Where do you see it going?
I think the sharing economy is something that people are going to have to increasingly get to grips with and become aware of, due to the problem I call too much shit and too little bits. So basically, we have too much stuff, we have too much clutter occupying our space. So at some point, we have to start evaluating the value of the stuff around us and what we want access to. Mm-hmm. And on the other, we have not enough stuff to produce more stuff. We're running out of fuel, we're running out of mineral resource, we're running out of all of these different things. So we need to evaluate with an increasing population what we actually need and what we need 24/7 or what we just need access to. And we don't need to own what we want access to. So I think we are going to see this trend increase.
Yeah. Final question, Heiko. CiteeCar is going to expand, has already expanded to Munich, I believe, but will go to 3 more cities in Germany. What are the plans a little bit further down the road? So what are the goals for, let's say, like what you want to achieve end of 2014?
Basically what I said before, try to get as many people as possible, wherever, into car sharing cars. That's one of the reasons why we have to scale that fast.
At FridayatSix, we always try to get things a little bit more precise than that. So Jay started out by saying, I like metrics. So can you give us some data, like number of users, number of cities, number of hours that people pass in these shared cars?
So we are live in Berlin and in Hamburg. Next week we start in Munich. By the end of the year, we'll be in 6 cities in Germany, growing. Next year, we're going to be at least in 1 more country. By saying at least, it will most likely be at least 2. That's as specific as I can be.
Number of users?
As many as possible. No, seriously, each of the cars needs a good number of users around it. So if each of our cars replaces 15 privately owned cars, you can multiply that by people that don't replace their cars. So if we get 30, 40, 50 plus people per car, I think we're really doing a good job.
Okay. Give them a big applause. Jay and Heiko.
Thank you.
Thank you.